My name's Nyesha McCauley, and you're watching AccessTV.org.
Steve, she ain't bothering you. No. Okay. We got no. All right, fair enough. Very good. Okay, folks, listen. We want to thank everybody for coming out. We're going to have other folks probably just blend in and out. We want to certainly thank you for your time. Appreciate you getting up early in the morning to come out here for this important opportunity for us to continue to get our message out there. But before we get started, I want to always open up with prayer with one of our meetings and one of our strong partners from St. Francis Hospital, but also a minister and a good collaborative partner with ours, Dr. Mark McKinney. We come on up and open up with some prayer.
Thank you, Andrew. Let's bow just for a moment. Our God, there's nothing more important than we can do on this earth than what we're doing this morning. Bringing together a common mission and concern and love for our community so that the issues around violence and inequities that we see around us can be addressed in a clear way, in a unified way, and in ways that can measure impact. So I pray that you'll just bless this time, give us the wisdom to work together, and help bless what we plan to do to be done in the days and weeks and years to come, we pray. Amen.
All right, thank you. Okay, I just want to make a few quick acknowledgments, then I'm going to bring up our hosts. Right now, certainly I want to acknowledge our board chair, new board chair for Hartford Communities That Care. Come on in, Doc. Is Anthony Price. Good morning. And, thank you, Mr. Price, for joining us. Also, I want to recognize State Representative Doug McCrory. One of our New Haven partners, Detective Officer Julian Knox out of New Haven. Yvette Bello from Hartford Foundation for Public Giving. Officer Antuno from Hartford Police Department. And then many other folks are already on the agenda. And so we're going to go ahead and proceed. But I want to say real quickly before I open it up to say I want to thank Representative Brandon McGee for certainly hosting this event for us, but also keeping his eye on how we've evolved as a coalition, how we've evolved in terms of the work that we do inside the community and the support that he has continued to offer for this particular initiative. And so Brandon McGee, come on up and thanks again.
Thank you.
Right. Okay.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
It's definitely early, so my coffee hasn't really worked. It kicked in yet, but I am really excited that each of you took the time out this morning to just come here and talk about and to continue the dialogue that you all have been having for the better part of maybe a year and a half or two, and even longer within Hartford Communities That Care. We're in desperate times. There's an urgent need, not only to bring community partners together and to work collaboratively, but we're losing our young people. And we're also losing families. And I don't mean to give you doom and gloom, but the reality is right here in our face. And so for me as a community leader and a legislator, I am always intrigued by different faces in the room, but all of us working intentionally to reach one common goal. And so events like this, programs like this, it's never a question where my support is. And I know Representative McCrory as well and others will be here to join in and to support. What I am excited about is that this is not just a Hartford issue, but this is a nationwide concern where communities are coming together to work toward a common cause. Who's from New Haven in here? Some awesome. So Gary, Tony, all those folks will be by, and they're definitely in support of what you're doing, Andrew, and everybody else. So I see a lot of friends and family and all this good stuff. I'll let y'all talk later. But I do want to bring your attention just briefly to a packet. Thank my staff, Andrea, and all of the CGA folks for pulling this stuff together for me. But it's just a quick fact sheet. It talks a little bit about the bills that I'm working on. You'll also see the task force that Andrew and all of you have worked so hard to establish and to work alongside the governor's office as well as my office to see something like this pass, and for the state to pay a bit more attention to some of the things that are happening on the ground level. Last session, many representatives of urban centers, we were granted probably, what's the amount, Doug? All of the reps, I think they gave us about $5 million that we had to divide amongst each other to give out to our organizations that we felt is really working ahead of the curve in terms of working with our young people, connecting with partners to provide resources around the area of violence, homelessness, etc. And it was at sort of, it was throughout the discussion that we were having around Sandy Hook. And many of our legislators, including myself, we said, look, our heart is pained and we're grieving by what happened down in Sandy Hook. But our issues are a tad bit different in the urban centers. And we need to figure out, one, how to help our young people alternate paths, but more importantly, how are we providing resources to organizations that are currently doing this work and they just need some more money. We know that money is not the answer to everything, but when you think about capacity building, hiring our young people, even those that live in our neighborhood that are adults, that while they may not have the degree, they definitely have the experience and could add some value to the conversations that we're having. So all that to say, we were able to just gift a small amount of money to Hartford Communities That Care and other organizations to continue this work. And hopefully we'll try to do it this year, but I think you all have been paying attention to all of the budget cuts. And I'm saying it with a not so genuine smile, but it's disheartening. And we're working alongside all of the governor's staff and everyone else to really, really highlight areas that are being impacted by these proposed cuts. So this morning, I'm going to be here. We're also in session around noon, so you'll have a lot of elected officials coming in and out. Feel free to talk to them, especially those of you that are from the Hartford area. You'll have folks that represent you. Reach out to them. Get their cards. I mean, you have myself and Doug here this morning, but there will be others to stop by. And I'm preaching to the choir because many of you have been up here. You come up here often. Keep coming. Please come. Not only is it good to see you, but it's also important that many other elected officials see you here so that when we're talking about these issues, they understand that there is a desperate need for bills to be passed, money to be allocated, and that we can't be overlooked. So thank you so much, Andrew. Thank you, Mr. Board Chair. And I would be remiss if I didn't just say thank you to my uncle. You know, we got the 5th Assembly District up in here today. So thanks again, and Andrew, keep up the great work. And hopefully we'll get the governor, since he likes you so much, we'll get the governor to stop by as well.
All right, man. You know, Brandon referenced the resources that him, Doug, and some other legislators were able to get into our community. If you go to page 14 in the booklet, and what you will see is actually some of their efforts, their advocacy, their championing of the kind of support that organizations in this room and elsewhere across the state needed. But this is specific to their districts, the resource agencies that were able to benefit from the allocations that were 2 years in a row. And so you'll see there, we have representatives here from the YMCA, Clinton and the other young Najel, who's new with the agency. You have Miss Kelly, Miss Patricia Kelly from the Ebony Horsewomen. You have folks from the Urban League representing us here and so forth. Hartford Knights, Faith Congregation, Hartford Behavioral Health, a lot of the different partners, etc. Those are folks that, again, our legislators here in Hartford have rolled their sleeves up to make sure that these agencies that have been doing some of this work can continue and hopefully enhance some of the work they've been doing to reduce violence in our city. Before I bring up Steve Harris, some of you may not know the history of Communities That Care, and I'll just give you a quick brief in terms of how far this work goes back. I was sharing with Brother Lovejoy when we were coming inside the building. I said, you know, back in 1998, there was a big question in my mind that I wanted to know, why were very few resources allocated towards communities of color as it related to not just violence, but all kinds of other particular issues. And I was going for my master's degree up at UConn School of Social Work, and I tapped Representative at the time, Kenny Green, who was also a social worker. And so I ended up doing my legislative internship here under Representative Green at that time. We started doing a lot of community summits, specifically listening to the hearing from youth as to what the issues was. At that time, I was volunteering at Fox Middle School, doing mentoring and running groups, etc. But also, it wasn't a year after that a young boy by the name of Aquam Selman, 14-year-old black kid, was shot by a white officer at the time. It was an R. Ferguson moment in the city of Hartford. But who was on city council at the time was Steve Harris. And Raging Cajun was on New Park Avenue. And I spent probably, I don't know, it didn't take long. I probably went 3 meetings to talk with Steve about the need for support that we needed at Fox Middle. Because as you remember, everyone was mobilizing outside of Fox because it was a big major community issue, you know, and so forth. We were concerned about the fallout. We were concerned about whether or not the officer was going to be cleared and what kind of reaction that was going to be. And the school said, look, Mr. Woods, everybody's mobilizing outside the school, but we got this kid. He was 14 years of age. This is the 7th and 8th grade school. Who's working with our kids? Elise. And I said, listen, I'll mobilize the kids to create a campaign. And that campaign became the Stump the Violence Youth Leadership Institute. And that was the dollars that actually Steve Harris on council was able to get us to see the Stump the Violence Youth Leadership Institute, which, folks, if you ever get a chance to look at our entire history, that was the beginning of Hartford Communities That Care. And so I want to thank you, Representative Harris, for that. But when you look at our history as organizations in our community, a lot had to do with collaboration, particularly Communities That Care. I didn't have the benefit of a strong board or a board that had, or folks or big donors and things along those lines. I didn't have the benefit of, say, folks that had deep pockets, if you will. I had the benefit of partnerships. I had the benefit of relationships. I had the benefit of folks that I could reach to and maybe borrow a dime from you or 10 cents from you or something along those lines. In fact, St. Francis Hospital at the time, when Steve seeded those dollars, St. Francis Hospital, they matched it with $5,000 at that time. I don't think you knew that history. But actually what happened was, again, this was really, really cobbling together resources. And that's the way we've been functioning ever since. And so Steve Harris, if you come on up, and big champion of the violence-free zone, is primarily launched in his district of the 5th Assembly District area, and the big champion.
First of all, thank you, Andrew. I'm not going to take a whole lot of time. I also want to thank Doug and Brandon, who have been doing yeoman's work up here, yeoman's work. And they were doing work before it was popular to do work. They've always been out here. To Brandon, who's definitely a bright, young, upcoming, energetic, stop. He's a North Hartford child. He's a North Hartford child. I'm a North Hartford elder. I've been in North Hartford 67 years. 67 years. I live in North Hartford because this is my home. I'm a proud North End brother. As I look out here and I see Pat and others, I see people who have been instrumental in trying to keep not only our children together, but our families together. You know, North Hartford gets kind of a negative knock, but for every knucklehead I can show you hundreds of people that get up every day trying to do the right thing under some very adverse conditions. So again, I want to again thank Doug, because Doug has been at it a very long time. This young man over here, this young man, we better use him while we can, because very soon he'll probably be in DC doing bigger and better things. But to this young man here who walked into my office that day and said, look, you know, there's craziness going on. I went to this person, I went to that person. I said, well, who'd you go to in the city? Well, I'm having difficulty. No more. Pick up the phone. See, those of us who are elected officials, we need to use that bully pulpit. We need to pick up that phone and not ask, but tell. See, too often sometimes we want to kind of sweet talking. When kids, people are dying in the street, there ain't no sweet talking. There ain't time for sweet talking. It's time to get things done. I've lost 2 family members to homicides in North Hartford. 2. I look out, I see Brother Kyle, who walk up and down these streets, even today, elder. And I see the number of young people who won't even get up and vote. Won't even get up and vote. And we wonder why we have Ferguson moments. So I say to you, I'm not going to take a whole lot of time. But I'm here because I believe in collaboration. I'm a North End brother. I ain't going nowhere. And if there's going to be decisions made, I'm going to be sitting at the table. Thank you.
A few more additional. I know Carl Anderson. He on the program. Representative Danny Riverio. All right. All right, Brother Kyle Hodgins, who's my mentor, who's been doing this work for 50 years. Brother Kyle, wave to the folks. All right. Okay, just had Thomas Clark come in, who's also representing Representative Murphy's office. Okay. At this time, I want to bring in my childhood sweetheart, who got married to another man. Wow. We went there. Wow. Absolutely. Her and I went to high school together. And but a big champion, her and her moms. Her mom's actually was one of my mentors as well. When I started breaking into community organizing and community work and so forth, Miss Helen Nixon. But she's the NRZ chair of the Northeast NRZ. Darlene, come on up, sister. Yeah.
Still love you, honey.
All right, watch that.
Watch the hug.
Good morning, everyone. I want to thank you all for allowing me to come here to speak in front of you for this wonderful guy, Andrew Woods. I love him dearly. So many thanks to you, Andrew. Hartford Community That Cares, he does a lot for our community. But I wanted to freestyle, but if I freestyle, I might go off the track. So I wrote everything down because I have statistics, okay? So bear with me. All right. In the past years, I have had the good fortune of being invited to speak at several forums with young adults that are committed to supporting nonviolent and drug-free communities in which, much like their parents, they are committed to their Hartford roots and would love to stay here and raise productive families. And almost at each event, I am asked the same question. How does Violence-Free Zone initiative meet the unique demands of today while also preparing for the future? Well, my 2-part response has been the same each time. For starters, in 2013, and through the efforts of the Connecticut Black and Puerto Rican Legislative Caucus under the leadership of State Representative Brandon McGee of the 5th District, Angel RC of the 3rd District, and Doug McCory of the 7th District. Together, they've secured funding to pilot violence prevention and intervention efforts in Hartford under the directives of Governor Malloy, and authorized funds to pilot the Violence-Free Zone Coalition in North Hartford. In 2014, President Obama launched the My Brother's Keeper initiative and issued a challenge to address the violence that continuously plague our boys and young men of color across the country to ensure that all people can reach their full potential. And in 2014, as a result, Mayor Pedro Segarra announced the city of Hartford accepted the president's My Brother's Keeper challenge. So that was big to me, that was big. So with the support of President Obama, Governor Malloy, and Mayor Segarra, funding should not be an issue because we have our top elected legislators and leaders at the state capitol and city government that are willing to do all they can to see that these programs are fully funded to help bring these initiatives into fruition and to ensure that they are highly successful in the trusted care of Hartford community that cares.
And others.
And others, of course. But I want to make sure, because to me, that was an applaudable moment. Because if they're not, I mean, they're giving it to you, but because I'm here representing you right now, so I'm saying I'm happy that the funding is coming in your direction so we can, you know, do these things in our community, because without Hartford community that cares, Andrew, you do a lot for our community. And I mean, with all the programs that you have running, and we need to acknowledge you. And I'm very proud of you. I am. And I think everybody here is in the same corner with me. Yep. So I think we need to applaud him. Because, I mean, I'm not trying to take it off for anybody else, but I'm here for you right now. As the Northeast Chair, you're home based in North Hartford. And, you know, we all love you. And our kids respect you tremendously.
I humbly accept you.
So secondly, as a nonprofit organization, Hartford Community That Cares have earned their good reputation in the community by providing several vital services, by being responsive to the community needs, and most importantly, by achieving, in most cases, record-breaking results. Hartford Community That Cares continuously help to make other community a better place for families to live, enjoy recreation, educate, and do business. But we all know violence prevention and intervention takes some funding to sustain and enhance the resources geared toward urban violence. As I previously mentioned, funding was secured by Black and Latino legislation delegation during the 2013 legislation session. Said fundings are secured resources and to help our Northeast neighborhood provide boots on the ground model after the Office of Juvenile Delinquency Prevention Comprehensive Gang Model. According to the data by Giving USA 2013 by the Center on Philanthropy at Indiana University, Americans gave $335 billion to charity in 2013. These charities were given to U.S. individuals, corporations, they were given by U.S. individuals, corporations, foundations, and bequests in 2013 approached the peak seen before the worst of the Great Recession. According to research released by Giving US Foundation and its research partner, the Indiana University Lilly Family School of Philanthropy, when measured into dollars, donation in 2013 marked the fourth straight year of increased giving by 4.4% as reported in Giving USA 2014. Donors are increasingly more comfortable giving to the causes they are about and that they care about, and the level in which they keep with the impact they would like to make. Did that make sense? Okay, you understand it because but as I took a closer look at this data, I discovered just under $42 billion. $42 billion were donated to human services. That's a lot of money. And I think, you know, with the monies that was allocated in 2013, and, you know, it's like, for me, the increase of givers came to like 0.7%, which was more than it was in 2012 and prior to that. So what I'm saying, yearly, they're donating more money, more people are giving, so hopefully we'll get enough funding with the state representative, and everybody in this room will help you get the funding that you need to support what you're doing. Okay? So as I previously stated, the Northeastern RZ, along with other grassroots organizations housed in North Hartford, are proud to support Hartford Community That Cares. Together, we proudly support the unity of nonprofit human services in our communities. The Northeast nonprofit organizations are mission-driven, unsung heroes that are holding up and repairing the safety net, which will be called upon to our great length in the months to come. In the past, our Northeast community has weathered some severe economic storms with much greater resiliency than the stock market. So, you know, to me, it's like the same thing. the stock market and what we've been through economically, the Northeast, we've been hit so many times and never came back from it. So now is our time. Maybe we can do something to bring our community back together. Under Hartford Communities That Care, and everybody, we look up to you, and I just love you, Andrew. So thank you. So thank you very much.
All right. Okay. I see Kevin Kane, State's Attorney, just walked in. Did he walk back out? Oh, there he is. Okay, gotcha. Thanks, Kevin, for making it. And Chuck Cummins with the City of Hartford just came in as well. Okay. Just a little bit background on the violence-free zone, in keeping with our agenda, is that basically this is a model that's been in existence for nearly 30 years. In fact, Brother Kyle was one of the individuals who actually piloted it back in Dutch Point during the times that you had the gang wars between the Solids and the Latin Kings And so there was a beginning somewhat of an attempt to really get that solid or embedded inside the community. And so it has always been something that's been on our eyes and on our mind in terms of something that we wanted to look at and implement inside one of our communities. So fast forward years later, we were able finally to secure some resources to implement a model that showed a lot of promise in several cities nationally. It's also recognized by the federal government. It's also recognized by the state of Connecticut. In fact, 10 years ago, State Senator Eric Coleman actually put in a resolution for a violence-free zone, which is actually still on the books right now, but it never got the funding to go with it. And so if you're ever looking for violence-free zone, Brandon and Doug, on the books, it's already there. All you gotta do is slap some, slap a tag on it and just let that thing roll out. That's right. But essentially, and so again, really, it's on the books. So check it out. The important thing, again, about the zone is that it's not just about one agency. It's not about communities that care. That is our mission in terms of working specifically with gang-involved youth, looking at trying to address a lot of the trauma that impact the trauma that's associated with violence, mental health trauma, et cetera, PTSD, you name it. But also you got organizations like the Urban League that's around the table. So they specialize in things like GED and housing, et cetera, et cetera. As a coalition partner within the zone, we want to make sure that all of our families are getting the kind of support that they need. When you look at that youth development work that the YMCA provides, when you look at Capital Workforce Partners, when you talk about employment opportunities for not just youth, but also for adults as well, again, we're looking at a distinct neighborhood that we're basically looking to try to raise the bar on everybody that's inside that neighborhood by having the right partners around the table. And so really that's what a whole zone concept is all about. You got researchers like the Institute for Community Research that you'll hear from later on the agenda. We got to make sure that we're measuring our outcomes, that we're making sure that what we say we're doing, we're going to be doing, and that we're going to be able to demonstrate that, because funders want to hear that, legislators want to hear that, and our parents and our kids need to know that what we're doing is working for them as well. And that way we can make adjustments when things go off track, et cetera. And so the zone model is really basically, again, it's about collaborations. It's about folks coming together, working together to lift up an entire community. Now, mind you, once this thing is successful, when I say once it's successful, folks are always looking at replication. What cities, what other towns might want to adopt this same model? There are folks on this, Angel Arcey has an interest in saying, hey, listen, I want to see the same type of model in the South End. There are folks from Bridgeport who have their eyes on this model, folks from New Haven who have their eyes on this model, because it's a true collaborative partnership that really involves folks. Now, with our coalition, you'll be glad to know, folks that have committed to this have committed a 3-year commitment to it, because people know that coalition work is tough. Working with people is tough. But folks have made a commitment as a part of this coalition for 3 years so that we can really get the kind of outcomes that our families deserve. And so you'll be able to read a little bit more about that as well. But I want to continue with the agenda because we got other speakers on the program. So at this time, I want to bring up another high school chum of mine, actually Kyle Anderson. He was a 9th grader. I was a 10th grader or 11th grader or whatever I was at the time. And when I met Kyle, I actually had to pull him off a guy. It was during a basketball game, a Weaver versus Hartford High basketball game. And these gang members, actually, this is a true story. These gang members actually went to go jump Kyle. and Kyle knocked one of them out. Now he knocked out some of the worst, most dangerous guys in the city. And I had to bring Kyle down into the basement of Weaver High School, out the back door, brought him to my house, and kept him hidden for a while until the guys stopped roaming the streets 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, then he was able to get home. So Kyle Anderson, come on up, Councilman Kyle Anderson. Bring a little color in this thing.
I still have the scar to show for the knockout punch. I really do. That is a true story. And it's a story that kind of brings me back. And it's a story that this is why I'm doing this particular work. Because I was a scholar athlete at Weaver High School. I wore glasses. Yeah. And they thought they could bully me. So I understand bullying. I understand gang violence. And I understand what it is to still come from the north end of Hartford, where I still reside. I'm in the house that I grew up in on Tower Avenue in the 5th District. There's a lot of people here from the 5th District. The hands go up. So I understand what it is. And I understand what it is, too, to show young folks an opportunity that they, too, can rise above that. I'm living proof. I hate to say it, but Charles Barkley, you may not be a role model, but I am. And I'm here to attest to that. I thought Darlene and I, we grew up together. I thought she was going to steal my whole thunder from My Brother's Keepers because she was taking you where I want to take you. So I'm not going to be redundant in the message, but the message, you go to page 7 in your pamphlets there, it's going to talk about My Brother's Keeper. And this is a national initiative that came out of the U.S. And our mayor, Pedro Segura, decided to participate and answer the challenge made to him by President Obama and all the mayors across the United States. So about a year ago, we got into it a little later, but this is the first anniversary, this is the year anniversary of My Brother's Keeper that happened about in February. Just to let you guys know that it is off and running. Here in Hartford, we're going to make sure that we take all advantages of what this initiative can offer. Throughout the city, throughout the state of Connecticut, you have Bridgeport, New Haven, Mashantucket, Peacock Tribal Nation, and the city of Hartford. Those thus far has come along with the challenge. I've reached out to Waterbury. They're looking into the possibility of how they become involved with the initiative. This is a federal initiative. And President Obama said, I'm going to take this initiative, I'm going to fund it. I'm not going to fund it through traditional Congress, but I'm going to look at philanthropic groups. I'm going to look at entertainers. I'm going to look at foundation work. I'm going to look at other ways to put money into this kettle. Now, one of the things he said to us, those who accepted the challenge, he says, we have to get our ducks in a row. We have to meet so many benchmarks before we can move this thing forward. Hartford has done that with the help of Hartford Communities That Care. When the mayor asked me about 3 months ago, would I be willing to champion this cause for the city of Hartford? Number one, I thought it was a no-brainer because I live in the area that is most affected by it. The data has shown, Chief Rovella has shown, him and I and Andrew have sat down and looked over the data and says, where is the need? Where is the concentration? Where is the violence being done by young men of color in the North End? Most of them where they reside. We said, let's look at the data. Let's have this thing not be nilly-willy because politics will come into play. Why did you choose North over South? He said, oh, no. There's a reason for that. We're going to get to the South, but we have to start somewhere, be effective, get the message out, have RBA results, because you talked about quantifying our results. RBA is something that we're going to be using to quantify our results with the data that's driven. So we said, okay, let's bring it in. Let's take care of it. What we have done thus far, we've gone down, Andrew and I said, let me just back up for a second, because when the mayor said, this is what this is about, when I started reading what My Brother's Keeper is all about, I said, wait a minute. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. We need to collaborate. Andrew Woods has done this work from the very beginning. And he doesn't remember this, but I was one of the first organizations that fed his kids when I owned my Subway sandwich shop.
Oh, I remember good stand-up sandwiches.
He
Go ahead.
didn't say that then because I gave him the right price. But going back to Fox Middle School, when he was having these young people stay after school and engaging them in activities, he said, well, we got to give them something. So we cut a good deal. I thought it was a good deal. I cut you. And you have free delivery. So I said, wait a minute. Andrew Woods is based in a community that's being affected, number one. Number two, he's doing his work. He's already building collaborations with other nonprofits who do this body of work. Why do we need to reinvent the wheel, Mr. Mayor? Let's go to Andrew. He said, Kai, if you're going to be the lead, you go ahead and lead. Sat down with Andrew. He says, Kai, I'm kind of busy. I said, why don't you just look at this initiative for a minute, because what you've already done, you've already laid the foundation to move this initiative forward in the city of Hartford. And then once he saw the big picture, once Andrew saw the big picture, he said, what about resources? I said, Brandon McGee talked about, not always about the money. It's about the body of work. But I said, let's get our ducks in a row. Let's meet all the benchmarks, and we can show the federal government that Hartford, Connecticut can take care of this work, because we've already done it. We've already embarked upon it. We already started to engage these young people. We get it. So I said, after a while, it was an easy sell. He said, let's do it. I said, well, our next step is going down to Washington, D.C. for a conference. It's called Accepting the Challenge. It was a convening of all the people that signed on to the initiative across the country. Let's get involved. Andrew and I took a trip. Now, this is before the big storm. Andrew says, God, we got to be down there before the big storm, because we got to beat everybody to the punch. I said, you know what? Let's go. We drive down. We're the only two in Washington, D.C. for this conference. The storm kept everybody out. So we had the forethought to get down there early to beat the storm, because we're in New England. We know how to roll. Get down there, get into a hotel. So wait a minute. There's no conference. There's no convening. What do we do? I said, well, let me call the mayor, reach out to a lobbyist, Virginia Mayor, who's our lobbyist down in D.C., put us in contact with my brother's keeper people at the White House. We had a one-on-one sit down with them. Okay. And we also talked about body cameras. And he was like, why are you talking about body cameras? He's changed that tune since then, because now he sees the importance of what's going on with body cameras throughout the city and throughout the nation. But the one-on-one conversation we had at the White House with my brother's keeper initiatives, all the administrators for that, is saying that what we're doing in Hartford has already set the trend. Because of his Tipsy's work back in the day, when he talked about what is the triggering factors of getting these young people going down the wrong path, early exposure to marijuana, early exposure to smoking, early exposure to alcohol. Those young people who are going down that path of experiencing, I call them the intro drugs, is saying that, listen, let's move on to something else. Let's make sure that they don't go down that road. So, Andrew, the work that we've started, the collaboration that we've begun to start moving upon, we're going to keep it moving forward. And right now, excuse me, our next steps is to, one, start bringing other people to the table now. That's where we are now. Our budget is put together, and we presented our budget to the mayor to make sure that Hartford puts skin in the game for this initiative. That Hartford puts skin in the game, because when we come to the state and we come to the federal government, we want to make sure that, wait a minute, is your money where your mouth is? So we've already presented it to the mayor and Juan Figueroa to make sure that they understand that, listen, we're going to need some seed funds to get this going so we can tap into the big money down the line. So folks, my brother's keeper, I'll be around to kind of talk about things offline, but we're looking to bring in a larger collaboration, because we've been hearing that word very frequently this morning, collaboration. We want to keep it going, not only here in Hartford, but across the state of Connecticut. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our time is looking good. Steve, Craig Stallings is actually in the hospital. So he won't be able to make it down here, obviously, because he's in the hospital. But he's working with us as one of the board members of the Hartford Board of Education. These are also partners that are working with us strongly, and they've examined exactly what the issues are and the need and so forth. And so he's been in consultation with the superintendent as well as other board members and other staff members about exactly what the Board of Education needs to do in terms of being a full partner within the violence-free zone. We have 4 schools inside this neighborhood. Actually 3 if you count the shutdown of Clark. And that has a host of other challenges and problems that we as a coalition have been grappling with, just like everybody else, or a lot of other folks have. But it's certainly part of it within our crosshairs in terms of making sure we support these families that are inside the violence-free zone neighborhood and so forth. So let me do this. Let me bring up another strong member. You might know her from CNN. You might know her from what's the other big show she was on? The Queen Latifah show. You might know her from, but her claim to fame is actually Miss Patricia Kelly is the founding executive director, the CEO of the nationally renowned Ebony Horsewoman, who's a strong partner, another mentor of mine and others and so forth. And I want to welcome you up, sister, to come on and share some of your work.
I'm not going to take up a lot of your time. I was in a venue not long ago, and I found myself being the oldest person in the room, but I now know that Steve is. So I feel good about that.
I do too, Doc.
But I'm old enough to remember some stuff that y'all don't know about. He does because he's elder. His mother, Jackie Anderson, helped begin a commission, Civilian Police Review Board 85. I sat on that commission when Black lives were being shot and killed by officers in the city of Hartford. And it was nothing but a thing. And they put together this commission to keep the natives satisfied. And I sat on that commission for 10 years, and I heard all kinds of excuses that made no sense of why Black children were being shot. Okay. There were other grassroots organizations that tried to do what Andrew is doing now. So what happened? Why is it that legacy was not carried forward to help boost his work? Why is it appearing that he's recreating the wheel? Well, there's a real reason why it didn't get carried forward and why those grassroots organizations, the hard work that they didn't get carried forward. And today we're here and we're acknowledging all the hard work that Andrew is doing. And I acknowledge it too. I'm a little concerned about all these women you wanted to marry when you want to marry my daughter. We're going to need to talk about that. What happened? Well, it comes down, somebody says it's not about the money, but yes, it is. Yes, it is about the money. Because this is what happens. I went to a grant meeting not long ago, and everybody was in the room. Urban League, YMCA, Ebony Horsewomen, all these folks. And what typically is done is somebody gets a pot of money and they throw it up in the air and they let nonprofits beat each other to death for this little bit of money and make you do ridiculous stuff. And I walked out of one grant meeting. The grant part of the stuff was you got to make sure that the families have a meal together once a week. And I thought to myself, with all of the problems that we have in the North End, you gonna give me a charge if I can give $5,000 and make sure that they eat together. So if they eat together and cussing each other out over the table, what good is that? I walked out, I refused. I needed the $5,000. Yes, I needed it. So let me stop for a minute and thank Brandon McGee, Doug McCory, for finding money to allocate to the nonprofits to do the work. Because as great as this man is, and the work that he is doing seems to be the very thing that we need, he cannot do it alone.
That's right.
I know that's right.
He cannot do it alone. He needs the Y, he needs Urban League, he needs Ebony Horsewomen, he needs all the rest. And we can't do it without money.
That's right.
We are hiring those individuals who cannot go downtown and get a job at the insurance companies. We are hiring those young men who cannot find work anywhere else. On a daily basis, I get young men who come to the barn and ask for any kind of job, for any kind of money. And I know that if I don't give them something, they're going to go get something. And then there'll be a statistic. In our neighborhood, there is over 13% unemployment. Why? Because the school systems suck. Suck. We lose our young men in the 6th grade. It's a wrap. It's a wrap. And then they grow up to be this 13, 14, 15% and something for him to look at on the streets as to whether or not they're doing crime. Nothing makes a man feel like a man, that like a job. Right. And I'm not talking about a Burger King or McDonald's job. That's the secondary, primary job market. So we need money. We can collaborate. We can come and have breakfast and massage each other and talk about what we're doing. That's nice. But I don't need to pull my suspenders anymore and pop them. I need some money. We got a $300 million ballpark going where? And they calling it downtown North. You know very well our boys and girls are not getting jobs down there. You know that. So what are you going to do about it? We know this. The ball stadium was a wrap before we even knew it was coming. So what are we going to do about it? So I applaud Andrew and this man over here. We have been on the opposite sides of many a discussion in the past, but it never discounted his heart and his commitment for North Hartford. I knew his mother. His mother and my mother were poker buddies. So I've known Steve, and we went to school together. And I know what his commitment is. I know what his heart is. But he knows what I'm saying is true. I love coming to this kind of stuff. This is nice. You know, we get to smooth each other. But the bottom line, Brandon, TJ, Dog, go find that money. And take no for an answer, because we cannot do, he can't do the work and we can't do the work. And let me tell you where the coup de grace is. When you get some agencies getting the bulk of the money and the rest of us are getting nothing, that makes division. And that's calculated. That's calculated. That's how you implode an effort. Divide and conquer. Let's not let that happen this time. Let's not let that happen. Let's not let them throw a bit of money up in the air and we cut each other to death for it. Let's not let that happen. Thank you, Andrew, for this opportunity. Great work.
I don't know who's going to follow that on the agenda. Peg Weeks. Well, listen, Peg, you're up next. Peg Weeks is the executive director of the Institute for Community Research. And let me tell you what's important about the work of ICR is that when I talk about our early history of what the communities that care, it was really a lot about always collecting the data, let the data tell the story, but also get the youth themselves to do the research. So that they can not only just tell their personal stories, their anecdotal stories, but back it up with data and information. This is something that ICR has been doing for decades now. And that's why when they had a chance and we had a chance to connect and them be a partner on the Violence Free Zone Coalition, they jumped at it, and we certainly jumped at making sure that they were a part of this. And so Peg is going to share more about the organization, and Zuli's going to talk about some of the work. Peg.
Thank you so much, Andrew. We are really excited to be a part of this. So good morning. My name is Peg Weeks. I'm Executive Director of the Institute for Community Research, ICR for short. We've been around Hartford for almost 30 years now, and we are a nonprofit community-based research organization. And what that means is that we are researchers who work with community partners to do research on issues that are significant to the health and well-being of the community. And much of that work involves building collaborations, maybe not quite as large and comprehensive as this one, but building collaborative partnerships in order to do research together. Because one of the most important things for us in our mission to do research that has a social justice purpose is to make sure that the questions that are being asked and are questions that the community feels are really relevant to them, and the findings that are coming from rigorous scientific research are being put to good use to improve the community. So we've been doing that in a lot of different arenas, most of it primarily health related. We've done a lot of AIDS prevention work. That's one of the things that I have focused on for a long time. We're actually located right across from Dutch Point. We've watched the change there. We were involved in doing AIDS prevention research there. We've done a lot of research on substance use with youth in the city, and trying to really understand not just the descriptive statistics of how many youth are using what drugs, but what underlies that whole issue of substance use. And the root causes of homelessness, and the issues around violence and violence prevention are truly profound and really require community involvement in the process of understanding it. One of the major programs that we've had over the past more than 25 years as part of ICR's regular work is to do participatory action research training with youth. So what does that mean? Well, participatory is pretty, speaks for itself. And research is really the whole process of understanding, using research as a tool, following the scientific method. We all learned the scientific method, developing theoretical models, rigorous ways to collect the data, analyze the data, process it. Sounds very, very technical. Sounds like youth couldn't possibly do it unless they had all kinds of training. It's not the case. Anyone can be involved in asking questions, and anyone can be involved in a rigorous process of learning how to use the scientific method to ask questions in a rigorous way and collect data on issues that are of significance and importance to them, including our youth in our communities, and not just the elite students in school. In fact, some of the students who have been involved in our youth participatory action research programs have really not connected very well with the schools, and find themselves able to do this and engage in it. And Zuli will tell you a little bit more about that process, because they're asking and answering questions that are directly relevant to them. And the action part of the PAR, participatory action research, is that they can also be involved in the process of putting the findings from their research that they created and engaged in and followed through on into some kind of action to make change in their communities. So as I said, we've been doing this for quite some time. It has been a remarkable experience for the youth. It has been a remarkable experience in terms of what they have been able to accomplish in terms of actions on topics like experience of racism, hustling, the list is really very long, suicide ideation, substance use. It goes on. And these are issues that they identified and developed themselves. An important component of it, too, is that we have a curriculum that we follow to train them in this process. And it is done in a way that They are basically doing it as a job, like a summer job, which is to say they're being paid to be community researchers. And I think that's a really important point. First of all, research is a job and it's a career. Now, not all of these youth are going to become scientists like those of us who go to graduate school and do that, but they use many of the skills that they learn in their professions. And even in doing it, recognizing it as something that they should get paid to do, gives it credibility and makes them also take it more seriously. So I want to stop here with the generalities and let Zuli tell you a little bit about some work that is a program that ICR is doing in collaboration with the Meriden Public Health Department with youth involved in their youth program, and how it actually works and how it can also work in North End neighborhood around issues of violence prevention and, to support the violence free zone. So thank you. And who's in the next? Can I ask you to come up?
Andrew's not going to introduce me? No,
She
that's
just,
fine. No,
go ahead.
That's how it is. No,
I'm gonna let it flow.
Sir.
Let it flow, Zuki.
Sir.
All
Thank
right.
you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Sulinet Morales. I work for the Institute for Community Research, and I am a long-standing resident in and out of Hartford. I have a good 16 years solid now. Before that, I was in and out. It gets a little tricky for me talking about the Institute for Community Research and PAR, because I have like two roles in my mind with it. So first, I started there as a youth participant. So when you talk about funding and money and job opportunities and things like that, I'm a walking testament to that, to those things, to giving jobs to youth. I would not have encountered that sort of opportunity had money not been attached to it, essentially. I was looking for a summer job. I was 15, as were the other students that were there with me during that summer. So that's one piece of it. Another piece of it was the experience of learning to look at my community in a critical way, learning to look at systems, learning to look at not just the people around me and blaming individuals for whatever sort of issues it was that we thought we were going through, but looking at how the school played a part, looking at how government played a part, looking at how policymakers play a part, and how all of those things interact with each other, and what it is that we could do to get to stakeholders that could create some sort of change in those communities, because those things trickle down and affect us. And then what we end up doing is pointing fingers at each other instead. And that's part of the plan. So that's another piece of it. Then when we're talking about gang violence and things like that, something that maybe Peg doesn't know is that when I first entered that summer program, there was two young men. One of them was a Blood member. Another one was a Crip member. And by the end of the summer, they were best friends.
Wow.
Yes. And they remained friends for years afterwards, but eventually, drifted apart. But the experience was unlike anything else. Some of my peers were in summer jobs like at I believe nail salons. Some of them had summer jobs at like Marshalls and things like that. And I'm not trying to talk down those jobs, because a job is a job at the end of the day, especially for youth. It is. But to have the opportunity to become involved to have the opportunity to be involved in your community and to look at it critically and be a change maker, essentially, and to get paid for that is astounding. It is astounding. Teens do not get paid to be involved. People are like, well, it's your community, you should blah, blah, blah. No, you need to give youth something to be invested in, and they will become invested, but you need to give them a reason. And you need to give them purpose, and you need to show them what it is that they'll be getting out of it. Telling them that they just should is not enough. It's never enough. It hasn't been enough for forever. So that's one piece of it. The other piece of it is that through being involved at ICR and then going on to college and so on, by the way, the educational piece of it too, being trained in research, it was also astounding to me to go into college. And in my last year, while trying to get my bachelor's, I got it, I promise. During my fourth year, running into terms such as quantitative and qualitative and doing my research classes and and having that moment of, I've been through this before. I've already learned this. I learned this when I was 15, was powerful for me. When everybody else was kind of, confused and just learning in the beginning stages, that was something else as well. So I want to speak to that the job opportunity is important. The getting to know each other is important. The learning about your community is important, but learning about research is also important. And learning that terminology and how to use numbers and facts and your personal story and how those things all combined are very powerful. Now, all of that to say, I eventually became a facilitator for a youth program when I came back to ICR full-time, and after I got my master's degree. And so now I facilitate a program out in Meriden, Connecticut, where the health department out there has hired youth. This started in October of 2013, where the youth were recruited. They work, so they get paid, to identify an issue that they thought was important in Meriden. And the issue that they focused on, that they chose, was substance use and abuse among teens. And that was with a focus on marijuana, prescription pills, and on alcohol. And through that, they were trained in how to do their own research, how to create their own research tools. So they created their own surveys. They created their own interviews. They decided who it is that they wanted to interview. They decided what schools they wanted to implement their surveys in, and they collected all of that information themselves. They did those interviews themselves. They were doing interviews with principals, with councilmen. They were doing it with funders, all of that on their own. When they gathered up that data and they looked at it, they saw that there was a need for, they come up with recommendations for change. And one of those needs was a need for a teen space, a free teen space, because there is the Y over there, like there is over here, there's the Boys and Girls Club, but they wanted something more unique to them, and they wouldn't have found that out had it not been for the research and their own experiences, of course. So now what they're going to be doing is they're going to be conducting focus groups in their communities with teens. They're going to be doing interviews with adults, with parents, and with teens, to try to see if they can get a space like that implemented. And it's not just a space, with a basketball court, no offense to the basketball players, but also tutoring opportunities, job opportunities, educational opportunities for them, counseling opportunities, because they know that mental health plays a key part in all of their lives. So that's where they're at. And hopefully, and through the process though, because the process is important, they're learning how to speak for themselves. They're learning how to advocate for themselves. They're learning how to advocate for other teens, which I don't think teens are very encouraged to do, is to speak up for each other. Especially, like Peg had said, when it's not the elite students, because my students are not all the elite students, and that's perfectly fine, because that's very real. So this is something that we want to try to bring to the violence-free zone, and see if we can train some of the youth in how to do research around their own community, so that they can speak, so that of course they can bring their own personal stories and speak to that, because that is important and that is powerful, but also to speak for each other, to provide the statistics, to provide the data that supports their own stories, because we know it's real. We talk about that all the time, but when we talk about funding, we also talk about numbers. So we are trying to work in collaboration, that's the word, to see how it is that we can bring all of this together to give a full picture, so that then we could create change, so that the youth feel empowered to create their own change. So I just want to say thank you all so much for listening to me, and I'm around for questions.
Now, Julie, I don't know how I would have been able to introduce that.
Right.
Very colorful. Listen, we often hear from people about youth voice. Let's hear from the youth. Let's hear from the youth. This is another, again, a very effective vehicle by which to do that. And we got to stop underestimating our children's ability to do that kind of analysis and so forth. Okay, we do that far too often. But again, the kids that they work with, that we all work with, have that capacity. All we as adults need to do is make sure they have the resources and the expertise and the mentoring that goes along with that for them to do that. Brother Lovejoy, who's been with me since 1998 as well as a partner, then eventually working to head up some of our departments within the agency, has been heading up the 21st Century Community Learning Program at Freddie Wood School, but also with other initiatives that we do. Come on up and share some of the work that you're doing, brother. All right.
So good morning. So just very quickly, I'm always excited when I get a chance to speak. I'm kind of a behind the scenes kind of person, and I definitely want to say I appreciate Mr. Andrew Woods, because I have been with Andrew since, well, actually the inception of STUMP.
That's right.
And so we're talking about 17 years. I was in Atlanta learning about 21st century community learning centers, and they had something going on down there called Safe Nights. And I said, you know what, we should bring this to Hartford. Came back to Hartford and met Andrew, who was working on Safe Night. And so that was just a bond that started, and a brotherhood and a love that lasts today. And so I just, first of all, I want to say thank you, brother, for this kind of work. Definitely. So my work has definitely been in working with youth, families, and community inside of schools. We currently have a 21st Century Community Learning Center at Fred D. Wish Elementary School, a 5-year grant. All right, once again, we're excited about that. It's right smack dab in the middle of the zone also. And so it was fitting for me last night to talk to the 75 children that we had in program. All right. And, you know, sometimes you got to pull your child close and just have a serious conversation. And so we had first graders through 8th graders. And it was one of those Mr. Lovejoy moments. And I said to them, and I said, look, our greatest treasure that we had as adults that we would give our lives for are the children. The children must be the #1 priority. Oh, you can clap for that. The #1 priority in our lives. Everything that we do is based on the children. And if it's not based on the children, then our priority is in the wrong place. Is that right? So, you know, while we're doing some great work here at the Capitol, let me just give you a preview of what's going on down in the 1st grade, 2nd grade through 8th grade at our 21st century. And we call the program First Class. Huh? So our child said, well, what program you go to? I go to First Class program. And we stick our chest out about that. But CLASS is an acronym that stands for Character, Leadership, and Student Success. All right? And we live by a student creed. And I want to share that creed with you, but I'm going to ask you to give me some help. Y'all all right? Okay? So I want to share the student creed with you. And we do it this way at Wish. We do something called call and response. And so I'll do the call and you're going to do the, all right, see y'all already. Somebody had coffee this morning, all right? But it goes like this. It says, I am a student.
I am a student.
Seeking to be a scholar.
Seeking to be a scholar.
The standard is excellence.
The standard is excellence.
Today and tomorrow.
Today and tomorrow.
I'm disciplined, focused, and on time.
I'm disciplined, focused, and on time.
I'm organized, respectful, and responsible.
I'm organized, respectful, and responsible.
I'm on a mission.
I'm on a mission
to elevate myself.
to elevate myself,
My community. And humanity. Ashe. 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 Give yourself a round of applause. So when I ask the children who wants to say the student creed, my family's here, Miss Terry is one of our staff people. They jump up. I'll say it. All right. But it's not just about hearing the word. Is that right? The scripture tells us. We must be more than just hearers of the word. We must be doers of the word. And so we're creating little change agents in the first grade, second grade, third grade. Is that right? We even have a group of young folks through a partnership, collaboration with CWP, all right, called Opportunity Youth. And we are shaping 18 through 24-year-olds to be able to get up here and do what I'm doing. Y'all all right? So I want you to recognize one of our youth leaders that's in the audience. Her name is Sister Keela Shea. There she is right there. Because we have to make way for them. See, one of the things that I learned from Brother Woods is that you have to build your bench strength. You know, the starting five is good, But Calvin, we get tired. Is that right? That's right. You know, we out there playing all the positions. See, but I'm gonna tell you something, Brother Brandon. We got some help coming for y'all. See, so we're working on the next generation of leaders right now, and so we are excited to have the opportunity to work from the federal level, the state level, the city level, and right down to the living room level, huh? Because that's where it really makes a difference, in the living room. So we say that we work with the children to get into the house to affect the community. All right? Now I done gave y'all enough of my time. I got to get back to work. All right?
Andrew, just a minute.
Yes, go ahead, sister.
Did anybody in this room hear who channeled through him? Steve? You didn't hear Malcolm?
Yes. Oh, yes.
Did you not hear Malcolm?
Dan is on tape.
Steve got them good ears anyway.
All right. Okay, looks like this young lady, Kim Oliver, the director of Capital Workforce Partners Opportunity Youth, is going to have to follow Calvin. So come on up, sister, and talk about our youth development and youth workforce development partnership. This is so just by way of quick intro, this young lady is also a North Hartford resident, born and raised, right across from Ebony Horse.
That's right.
It's where she lives at.
Yep.
And her and her mama and I used to work together years ago.
I was gonna say
But
you're
also-
talking Mary Hudson.
No, it ain't. But anyway, she's also a Yale grad who came up out of the hood and one of our other big time stars in the community. But anyway, lay it on them, sister.
All right, thank you so much. Good morning. I know it's interesting. I thought about what I wanted to say because I represent Capital Workforce Partners, and I'll talk about that this morning as well as our work, especially Opportunity Youth. But I just appreciate the love and support. I am from the north end of Hartford. Born and raised, proud of it. Weaver 92, went to Yale, came back, and still live there. So very proud to be in this room this morning. So thank you for putting on this event and just sharing the love. And I think we probably can do a better job of connecting with each other because I'm about to talk about Capital Workforce Partners and we're about to talk about the workforce system. And I heard things like collaboration this morning. And I've been working on collaboration for 6.5 years now for Capital Workforce Partners and United Way. And I can tell you, we all don't mean the same thing when we say collaboration, let's be honest. And when you actually start studying collaboration, some of us just believe in cooperating with each other, which just means I want to get out of your way. I'm not going to say anything. I'm going to let you do you. We all going to sit at the table and do the same thing. And that's a very different thing than co-ownership. When you actually own it, when you actually believe it, you not just bought in it, but you know you're also accountable for the outcomes that come out of it. So I'm hoping that's why I'm hearing a lot of that this morning. I'm hoping we're going to continue to commit to that. So thank you again, and we're very pleased to be part of it. And also just want to acknowledge the work that Mr. Woods and Mr. Lovejoy have done with our Opportunity Youth leaders. It's probably one of my most proudest accomplishments thus far with the work we've been doing over the past 18 months to be able to find funding for up to 15 young people where we can actually pay them to be part of the solution, empower themselves, and help their peers in their community. And this is the first time that Capital Workforce Partner has been behind a type of program like this. And I gotta tell you, it was a heavy lift. But I'm very appreciative of the leadership and support we've received at Capital Workforce Partners to make that program happen. And as Mr. Woods, Mr. Lovejoy, sometimes I'm hard on them because I'm like, we got to bring it back to our big funders like the Aspen Institute, like Hartford Foundation, to show them and demonstrate the actual value of the work that's happening. We can feel good in this room this morning, but if we don't have any outcomes to present in front of not just our funders, but in front of our community, then we haven't done our job, right? So, but now let me go into Capital Workforce Partners. So for those who don't know, Capital Workforce Partners, we are a community organization. We are also the Workforce Investment Board. That means we're receiving the money, federal money, and state money that usually comes from Department of Labor that comes through for this region. So we not only support Hartford, we support 37 towns, North Central Connecticut. That's a lot of money, and it's also a lot of accountability. Okay, so part of our job is that we are preparing young people for the future workforce. So many of you will hear that and also connect to the Summer Youth Employment Program. Out of the 5 WIBs in the state, we serve more youth. Over 2,000 young people come through summer youth employment in our region. And from the zone, it's approximately about a little over 200 that go to summer youth employment. What's important to know about summer youth employment is it's facing a cut right now. We've been talking about money this morning. Now, we're hearing some good stuff that there are a lot of people who are very committed and supportive of us getting that funding back for summer youth employment. But realize if that cut remains, that means we're either going to serve less youth or we're going to serve youth and not be able to provide as many services. So either less services or less youth, and that's the reality. And many times for our young people, this is the first experience they have in front of a job. Okay. And we're also the only workforce investment board that believes in the career competency training. And I'm sure many of you have heard about that training, how important it is for our young people. We're the only one that has that training program. In fact, receive acknowledgement across the country for the fact that our training programs like that. The other thing that we do is we help our adult workers get back to work or be able to take advantage of career advancement opportunities. Many of you guys know 3580 Main. It now says American Job Center. Used to say CT Works. Capital Workforce Partners is charged with managing those operations. So if you go into what we call the one-stop and you're not feeling good about something or you think there's an opportunity for us to improve, you come to Capital Workforce Partners so that we can work that out. So again, millions of dollars are actually coming through our system to support folks in our community. But the reality is, right, I said born and raised here right in Hartford, 3580 Main is right there. And even though I officially don't live in the zone, like this is all our neighborhood, right? I didn't really know what the one-stop was. And it's not always connected to our programs, our services, or even top of mind that this is a resource for you. So we need to do a better job as part of the system at Capital Workforce Partners, but also when we talk about partnering with each other. A lot of times what we find is people have the best of intentions and we all want to take care of it and we all go, okay, we're going to create these programs and we're going to fill the gaps ourselves and don't even realize there's another partner out there or another system that can assist us with that. So again, if you ever have an issue, you can take my business card today and we can start having a conversation about that, right? The last thing we do is we also serve our employers. Over 300 employers were served last year because it's about having a talented pipeline of people coming through the workforce. If we do not have those talented people coming through as our skilled folks, our businesses are going to begin leaving, bottom line. Once our businesses start leaving, you think it's bad now, it's going to get worse, okay? 30,000 people through the one-stop system, over 2,000 young people served in those 300 employers. The thing about Capital Workforce Partners is we were able to figure out early on that we had an issue with out-of-school youth, okay? So federal statutes come through, we receive money for our region. We receive annually about $2 million to serve young people in the 37 towns. And we get to figure out what we're going to do with this money, how we're going to make sure young people can connect to jobs. Several years ago, we realized we have an issue with a lot of young people who are out of school. So we hear again about the Summer Youth Employment Program, which we love that program, but that's for in-school youth, okay? So if you're not in school, you are not eligible for that program. When you look at zip codes and like we look at our zone, unfortunately, we have a lot of young people who are not in school, okay? That's the reality. So now what do you do with those young people? We started committing 100% of the federal dollars we receive for young people to out-of-school youth. These are the hardest to serve young people. We've experienced this bumps in the roads and we got really good at it to the point that now, because the federal statutes say that 75% of that money have to go to out-of-school youth, we're coasting because we've been doing that now for years and we've figured some things out. It's not easy. It takes a lot more money, a lot more investment to actually serve any of those young folks because you're dealing with people who are dealing with homelessness, a lot of life issues. I mean, they're acute issues. You need case management that's consistent through the process. These programs are usually 18 months to 24 months along. And it's a very significant investment, but we believe it's the right investment. Because the other side of this is there's no way do we believe that a temporary job in the summer for 5 weeks is the answer for a young person who may be facing homelessness or who has a child or et cetera. We need to actually connect them to these larger systems and help them with that. And we continue to be committed to that. As part of that, CWP helped to formalize what's called Hartford Opportunity Youth Collaborative. And it's in your booklet about Hartford Opportunity Youth. I'm the staff person for that collaborative. It's led by Mayor Segarra. 40 organizations and agencies sit around the table. And really what Aspen Institute envisioned was how can we do more systems building work? Because Aspen Institute, who quite honestly don't really got to worry about money, realize that there's usually not a lot of funding put on that side of the work. Usually what we do is we have all this money towards programming and then the funds go away. So we were able to make a difference for a short amount of time and we can't sustain it. So Aspen Institute came up and said, okay, we're going to figure out how we can do this. And fortunately, locally, we've been very happy that Hartford Foundation has been so generous in matching the support that we receive from the Aspen Institute. So if you guys are interested, that next meeting happens on March 24th at the Lyceum at 12 noon. Again, if you come take my car, just let me know you're going to come because we're going to serve our lunch there. And you're welcome to be part of that table. It's an open forum. Anyone is able to come. Opportunity Youth, by the way, they're 16 to 24-year-olds. That means they do not have a high school diploma. Also means that they're likely out of school, out of work. And also from CWP perspective, it means that they're also unemployed. And when you look at unemployment in particular, or underemployment in particular, that usually means that you do not make sufficient wages. Anyone who's read the Connecticut United Wage Report knows that sufficient wages are actually $21,000 for just an individual, $64,000 for a family if you have an infant or a preschooler. The reality here is there's not too many young people making that kind of money. And in fact, when we look at the zone, we actually know that it's less than $20,000 the median average wage for our zone. 43% of individuals in our zone are living in poverty. We have acute issues in the zone that we actually need to take care of. So one of the things that I'm going to end with very quickly here is that when we're talking about how can we make change and system change and policy change, we really need to help to promote things that work, right? So if you have something that's good news, we got to figure out how we can do a better job of lifting it up. And I'm very appreciative of the Violence Free Zone helping Capital Workforce Partners and Hartford Opportunity Youth with that charge, because we're not allowed to go out and lobby, right? Because we receive public dollars as Capital Workforce Partners. So we have to be very careful with that. But we need to make sure that people are aware things like contextualized learning works. When you think about career pathway programs for young people, that stuff works. And how do we make sure that we bring in evaluation and research in a way that we can demonstrate value and again, lift that up? And most importantly, the thing that I really want to leave with you guys is we think about out of school youth. Capital Workforce made a commitment a few years ago, right? That money is just a blip. There are 6,300 out-of-school youth or opportunity youth in the city of Hartford alone. There are 23,000 almost in our region. We're able to serve maybe 200 a year. That's it. Okay. Right now in Hartford, it's less than 100. We have got to figure out how we can maintain and we can sustain this kind of funding and also offer up opportunities for innovation. So as you think about all of the hard work that we're all trying to do, think about the impact that this group, the White House Council on Community Solutions under Obama administration began this conversation back in 2011 and 2012. And one of the things that they said, and I completely agree with this is a high-cost population. But they have the most untapped potential than any other population. And they're going to drive our future and they're going to drive the success of our community. And so we need to invest in these young people. So thank you very much for pleased to be part of the zone. I appreciate it.
couldn't have rounded it out a whole better than that. You know, we only got a few more minutes, thank you, Ms. Kelly, to do this. So listen, we got a Q&A right now, but before I do forget, there's a strong reason, a good reason, strong reason why we're here. Again, folks need to hear our voice. Each of you have legislators. Each of you have folks that are passionate about the kind of work that you do. We got to let them know what we're working on. As Kim pointed out, we got to thump our own chest. We got to basically let folks know that these are the kind of programs and services and policies that are meaningful to. I don't even eat them that much. This is why. But these are the policies and practices that actually benefit our communities, and why we need to continue to be in front of folks on these whole issues and so forth. And so I want to thank you for coming out. But before then, Representative Matt Ritter, who's one of all the strong supporters, I want to thank you for coming through. And any questions or answers? I mean, and this is the Q&A time for a few minutes. Any responses, any questions, any thoughts? If not, we can mingle. Okay, I'm going to let my good friend that opened it up close it out with just a brief few minutes on our history with St. Francis Hospital that Brother Carol and I started back when we had some serious gang problems among 7th and 8th graders, and how we actually connected with St. Francis Hospital and why that relationship so sustains itself today. Mark.
Thanks, Andrew. I am at St. Francis Hospital. We're proud to be, I think, a safety net hospital. The fact is that I'm not sure Andrew's ever been in my office. We tend to meet over the decades on the street and in the neighborhood and in my emergency room, but never in my office. If you do come to my office, you'll have to join some of us here from the Urban League, because my office is at the Urban League on the first floor. And there's a reason for that. A number of years ago, I've been there 31 years, we decided that projects like this are needed because people like me need to be in the community, need to be on the street, need to be where the problems are. I thank you because many of you I know in places like the neighborhoods. We are in a wonderful spot right now as a hospital, even if there's a lot of taxes and hospital stuff you read about in the newspapers. But we're in a wonderful place in some sense, because the future of healthcare, in my opinion, has got to be more upstream. We will always be the emergency room for you, but what is upstream health? Well, it's prevention. It's working with partners and sharing some dollars and really being humble enough to say, healthcare doesn't have all the answers. I don't know who may have ever thought that, but they don't. And thank God for places like our police department in Hartford and our state system and legislators that have actually come alongside, and we've gotten to know each other better than ever in the last few years, maybe for reasons we never imagined we would. But Community Solutions, Urban League, all these groups that are frontline, we thank you. We want to be a better partner as the years go on, and we'll try to be as humble and in the streets and in the communities. I started cutting my teeth at Stowe Village. So some of you, I'm aging myself here, but I visited places that probably I would have thought, why am I doing this? But I loved it. And so I still love it today after 31 years. I have a lot to learn, but here's one partner that I want you to know is the door's always open. Come to the Urban League, first floor. You'll also get introduced to a bunch of fine folks at the Urban League. Thank you. God bless. And thank you, Andrew, for all your work.
All right. Steve Harris, Darlene Childs, our community partners, we want to thank you for all coming out today. You see there's a follow-up date for the Violence Free Zone Coalition meeting, but also there's a lot of work in between this, and many of you are already a part of that. So let's continue to do the great work and enjoy your day.
Thanks.
Don't miss From the Boat to Obama, April the 22nd at the Bushnell's Belding Theater. For more information or to get tickets, call the Bushnell box office at 860-987-5900. That's 860-987-5900. From the Boat to Obama at the Bushnell's Belding Theater, April the 22nd.
I'm attorney Jeffrey Dressler. The NAACP Great Debate Series comes to the First Cathedral March 31st. See Harvard versus Howard University debate our most pressing social, cultural, and political issues of the day.
And I'm Scott X. Esdale. See historical Black universities versus their Ivy League counterparts in this highly acclaimed debate series, one of the most powerful and effective tools in the advancement of civil rights issues.
Proudly supported by Mega Education.